What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, hump day. How we doing? Cool. Good evening, beautiful souls. Yet again, welcome to another riveting episode of the Know Your Pharmacist Livestream. I'm your host, Dr. Joaquin Acosta, CEO of Pharmtrue, and your go-to expert for all things pharmacy and wellness. Tonight, we've got a show that's both enlightening and transformative. We're diving deep into topics that matter to you, me, and to our incredible community. We're here to connect, collaborate, and elevate our collective wellness. First up, tackling the new CDC COVID-19 measurement system, which is ditch the cards, guys. Talking on that on our Pharmacist Frontline. After that, we're going to brainstorm some of the implications here in our tech talk of what that means and how to access exactly what you need through the New Mexico system. That's where we'll be shifting gears there. And after that, guys, get ready for some captivating insights that literally is going to make you look up. Our Enlightenment Hour is all about the power of neuroplasticity. We're going to discuss strategies for managing intrusive thoughts and how you can reshape your mental landscape. It's going to be a productive and enlightening discussion in our Herbal Wellness Corner, featuring the latest episode of the Full Spectrum podcast. Me and Bennett hit that thing up about noon today. Excited, so prepare to be amazed by the creative ways that cannabis can enhance your life. This one today was a little bit more geared towards the ladies, so that was good too. Our community spotlight shines on a heartfelt fundraiser for baby Gia. Let's hope to come together and show some love for that. And finally, in our Men's Health Minute, guys, we're diving into a Harvard guide on getting back in shape. It's time to rev up your wellness journey. Huge thanks to our sponsors, Pharmtrue, High Horse, the Trichome Alliance, and Vado Speedway Park. Your support makes this all possible. So grab your favorite beverage, settle in. Let's make this thing ready to go, guys. So first thing dropping today, COVID cards are no longer needed in, society, according to the CDC. So what does that mean for everybody else? Cool. Can you ditch your COVID card? Yes, but you still do want to have some sort of proof. It's still considered, okay. However, move on over into New Mexicans Vaxview. If you guys know what that is, Vaxview is something that all New Mexicans have access to see, if their portal, for whatever vaccinations that they've received here in the state of New Mexico. And you can just have full on access to this. You can access your family members, caregivers, if you've had vaccines at pharmacies or at other places, that have not been updated on there. It's a good thing to connect with those pharmacies, update that however you can. Otherwise, go to the Department of Health. They can help you get taken care of as well. So big resource that I want to make sure everybody has, available as well. That's called Vaxview NM for everybody looking, hey, am I up to date on my vaccines and whatnot? Theoretically, your electronic wallet of vaccination records here in the state of New Mexico should all be current and ready to go inside of that Vaxview NM website, guys. I will share that in the chat for everybody as well, so you can access that. For whatever reason, the New Mexico Department of Health had a weird disconnect with this Vaxview here. So sometimes people were getting emails saying, hey, they needed to renew their COVID shots, but they didn't see, for whatever reason, it didn't get registered in Vaxview correctly or something else. So again, sometimes the system can be a little finicky, but theoretically all New Mexicans should want to have their immunization records caught up on there and work with either your pharmacy, Department of Health, or doctor's office to get that all consolidated and taken care of. Good things to, consider here. But bye to the printing of COVID-19 vaccination record cards. Finally can get rid of those and ditch those. I know here in this COVID season, or in the last two COVID seasons, coming in, lose your card, need a replacement card, stapling cards, laminating cards. Oh my gosh, It was like poker on steroids with the amount of card games that we were playing all day long. Seriously. So, if anybody's happy, your pharmacy teams are absolutely happy. I'm sure patients, you guys should be happy. Some people took pictures of the COVID cards on their phone, still wanted them rewritten. Some people wanted them rewritten for handwriting, whatever it may be. Always going to take care of my people. But guys, these COVID cards were fun to manage for sure. Shout out to all the healthcare heroes that helped out in the crisis there, COVID-19 pandemic, as well as, everybody else in every other way, right? Talking our Enlightenment Hour, guys, this is where we're going to jump in. Hopefully, give you guys some good insight of a follow-up on some stuff on neuroplasticity here that we had generated from the other day, guys, because the other day, we had started showing a little bit of this content, and I want to show her next, video there in line. And cool, so let me get over here to this, show that all properly. Perfect. So dropping this right under me. Be a good 15 minutes here.
About what a thought is, how it's different from a memory, and intrusive thoughts, how to manage them. So intrusive thoughts can often feel like a volcano. And if you think of a volcano, it builds and builds and builds. It's dormant for a period, builds and builds, and then erupts, and all the hot lava destroys everything in the pathway. But when the lava cools down, it remineralizes the soil, and the grass grows back even greener than before. Eventually, a volcano will become extinct, and then it won't erupt anymore. Now, what's this analogy telling us about thoughts? An unmanaged thought will keep erupting like a volcano, destroying parts of our life. There is regrowth as the grass grows back even greener than before. We can learn from those things, but then if we don't sort out the volcano, we get triggered and the whole thing happens all over again. So when we talk about mind management and managing intrusive thoughts, we're talking about understanding that we need to get that volcano to become extinct. And eventually when a volcano is extinct, you can still see the shape of the volcano. Your story never goes away, but it's no longer erupting and triggering your life and creating this trauma and damage, etc., and all these damage to relationships and so on. You actually get to the point where you are controlling the triggers, and that would be like an extinct volcano. So you can still see the volcano, which is your story, because your story never changes. What's happened to you has happened to you, but you're changing your thoughts so that they play out differently into your future instead of being hot lava constantly in your life. So if you look inside the brain now, this is a neuron, the top of a neuron in the brain. The brain's got about 100 billion of these. And what we see from the latest research in psychoneurobiology is that physically inside the brain, our experiences get stored as thoughts. So the mind builds experiences into the brain, which I told you in the first lesson, and the way that they land up forming in the brain is in the form of a thought tree. It looks like a tree. So what you are looking at on the screen now is a thought, or a whole lot of thoughts that you have built with your mind into your brain in response to life. And these thoughts are made of actual physical proteins that have grouped together. So we talk about the magic trees of the mind, or the thought trees of the mind, because our thoughts do look like trees. And like a tree has roots and a trunk and branches, so your thoughts have roots, a trunk, and branches. And all the roots and the trunk and the branches are your memories. So thoughts are not the same as memories. Thoughts are made of memories. Now look back at the screen and you'll see the schematic again. Look at the top part of that tree. It looks like a Christmas tree. And you'll see a little label coming out called dendrites. Well, all those little branches on that Christmas tree type looking thing, which are called dendrites, those are the memories. So the whole thing is the thought, and the little branches called the dendrites are the memories. So one thought could be this. The easiest way to understand is this lesson would be a thought, or this quest, in fact. All these lessons on this quest on how to manage anxiety and depression would be the tree, one thought tree. And as I'm giving you information, you are growing more and more memories, the data, the branches on the tree. So the roots and the branches are the memories that cluster together to form the thought of this quest. So the name of this thought tree that you are building, going through these lessons, is on how to manage anxiety and depression. That's the name of the thought tree. And then all the detail that I'm giving you are the memories that you're building into the thought tree. Okay? So memories group together to form thought. Now you'll see on the screen a moving image. This is from Johns Hopkins University, and this is literally thought trees. You can see the little cluster of branches at the top, and you can see the tree trunk. And this is literally what our thoughts look like. Thoughts are real things made of proteins and chemicals that occupy mental real estate. They are holding your experience, and these are the things that show up in what you say and what you do and how you run your life. So if you can get to these thoughts, you can actually do some deconstructing and some reconstructing. Because if these thoughts are the source of how you are showing up, and if you're showing up with anxiety and depression, then that anxiety and depression is coming from the thoughts. So we need to track back and find the thought, and then we need to go and deconstruct and reconstruct the thought. So neuroplasticity is the ability that we have to use our mind to change our brain, to change what our stories look like inside of our brain. And as soon as you change what it looks like inside of your brain, it changes what it looks like inside of your body, and then it changes what it looks like in your life. You see, every thought that you build with your mind into your brain, immediately as it's built, your brain sends a message. The mind-brain connection sends a message to your entire body, every cell of your body, and a representation of that cluster of memories built into a thought is inside every cell of your body. So your mind is embodied. Every experience you have is embodied. And that's why we feel, when we remember something traumatic, we feel our heart feels like it's going to stop, or you get that terrible stomach ache, or you break out in hives, or you have a body reaction, because the body is also storing that information. So it's mind, brain, and body. These thoughts are stored in 3 places. In the brain, they look like these trees that you see on the screen. And in the body, it's a change in every cell. And we have 37 to 100 trillion cells in our body. And in the mind, it's like a little energy wave. Here is a little pot plant, but it's a really good representation of what a thought looks like. This is literally what a thought looks like. All these little bits over here are the memories, but there's a root system inside here. So the root system is the origin or the source of the experience. So what happens is that right now, as I'm speaking, I am sending out all these energy waves, all the sound waves, electromagnetic light waves, and your mind is taking those, creating that fire in the brain and growing what I'm saying into little vibrations inside proteins in the root system. So the source of this thought that's growing in your brain about how to manage anxiety and depression, the source is me giving you the information. So that's the root system. As you're hearing me, all your experiences, your unique experiences of your life, what you do, the experience you've had, all of that, the relevant ones, those experiences are also thoughts, are moving into your conscious mind from your non-conscious to help you process this incoming information. And so as that happens, that then creates this part of the thought tree, which is the interpretation of this. So if this is an abusive situation, if you're repeatedly abused, like that example of the case study I gave you in the first lesson, then that is toxic experience. This is going to be distorted. So instead of it looking nice like this lesson looks like this is good information. An abuse would look like this. So here's now a toxic, distorted, very much alive, not a dead tree, a thought tree, very much alive, but the experience is toxic. So the source is toxic, and the processing is toxic, and the interpretation is toxic. So there's the abuse, and the kind of interpretation would be, I'm useless, I'm not worthy, I can't form a relationship, there's something wrong with me, I can't do this, I can't cope. So it'll be all your interpretation. Now that collectively, the root, the processing, and the branches, that is a thought. It contains data, the source data and the interpretation data. This combination shows up in how you show up in life. So what you say, what you do, how you're functioning in life is because of these and these. So when we are triggered and something reminds us of this then comes up and it influences how we function. These are the healthy ones. This is triggered, this comes up. And obviously this is going to produce a good result. This is going to produce a toxic result. So intrusive thoughts are actually your new best friend, because intrusive thoughts are not just bad things, they're also the good things in life. And also not only are the intrusive thoughts toxic. They're not bad because when you become aware of an intrusive thought, you can manage them. You can actually do something about them. By suppressing them, they control you. But by you saying, okay, I recognize that this thought is coming up. This is coming from something. There's a root system. I can change this. This now becomes something that you have control over. Instead of this driving you and exploding constantly like the volcano image I showed you, you can actually say, hey, hang on, I see the volcano. I'm now going to do the work of recognizing what are those signals. How can I deconstruct and reconstruct this? When you do that, a big shift will happen. So when we deconstruct and reconstruct a thought, we're changing what it looks like so that the story becomes small and you can move forward. So intrusive thoughts are your new best friend because you can actually learn to control them. Enhancing thoughts are what I call insurance policies. So an enhancing thought is a good thought. So not only do you want to pay attention to the toxic thoughts and deconstruct and reconstruct them, but you also want to pay attention to these, the joy in life, a great relationship, a great dinner, a great conversation, a wonderful time at work, a joyful thought. Don't just gloss over those. Take time to actually pay attention to them. Neurocycle around them once you understand how to neurocycle. Because the more you pay attention and grow these, the more you actually release the natural resilience that is inside of you. Now I'm going to show you how to do an exercise on how you can diagram your thoughts. So in this moment right now, I want you to think of what is your most intrusive thought. What is the thing that's really grabbing your mind and interrupting how you are functioning at the moment? It could be right at this moment, maybe you're at work or you've just come out of work, or maybe it's in your family, or maybe it's something that's been happening this week. What is something that's really intrusive that's popping up a lot? Now I want you to write that, take a big piece of paper, draw a circle in the middle of the page, a nice size circle, and then I want you to write that down in the circle. Now, I want you to draw another circle underneath it if you don't have enough room. If you have enough room, you can just keep in the same circle, and I want you to describe that intrusive thought in more detail. Turn it into a little mini story, a little mini narrative. Now, I want you to draw a line coming out of the circle top right-hand corner, because you're going to go clockwise around the page. And on that line, I want you to write this little sentence. How is this playing out in my life now? Now, growing out of how this is playing out in my life now, I want you to draw another little branch and another little branch and another little branch. And on each of those branches, you might have one, you might have two, you might have three. At any point while you're watching, if you need to pause and just stop and do the exercise, go ahead. Okay, so you're going to draw the line. And then from that, you're going to write down, how is this playing out in my life now? So it might be 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 1. Doesn't matter how many. You're just going, how is this playing out? And I'll give you some examples in a moment. And then you're going to have another line, separate line, go back to the center, draw out another line. And on that line, you're going to say, how has this affected you in the past? And then from that line, you're going to write out little sentences of how it's affected you in the past. Then you're going to go back to the circle, or circles if you've got 2, and draw another line. How could this affect you in the future? That's what you're going to write there. Out of that, you grow some little lines, however many, and put, how do you think this could affect you in the future? And then go back to the central circles and draw another line. Where do you think this is coming from? And then from there, you just grow a few lines and write whatever comes to mind. Now you can start this today and then work on this over a period of 7 days. So keep coming back and keep reading those little main lines that are coming out the circle and just keep adding onto that. And you may find you want to add to your narrative. You may say, oh, I need to put that in the middle. I need to change the thought. You can edit this thing as much as you like. You may want to even restart it. There's no hard and fast rules there when you're diagramming a thought. What you're doing with this exercise is you're training yourself to consciously and deliberately tune into the messages that are coming from the non-conscious through the subconscious, and you're starting to very analytically break this thought down. You're starting to deconstruct the thought so that you can reconstruct it and eventually get to the point where it's all the toxic energy is transferred over to a healthy thought growing. So let me just give you some examples of just a couple of examples of intrusive thoughts just to get you going. Maybe you're in a relationship where you're really have a fear of abandonment because maybe you were abandoned as a child or something. So the dominant thought is this person going to leave me? Then underneath the narrative is just describe why, what is the story? Who's this person? What is the story? What is this thing that you're in this relationship? What is it? Describe, little narrative. And that will be your central bubbles. And then coming out of that, you would start with all those questions and answer according to that central bubble. Another example, will this health issue ever be resolved? That could be your central bubble, then the narrative. I have to hide my true feelings and identity, and that's destroying you, whatever, right out. So there's always the main kind of name of the thought, and then you give the narrative, and then you start breaking that thought down. Last thing, I don't know what to do with this grief. So those are just some examples. So now what I'd like you to do, as I said, is take what we've done together today, and over the next 7 days, keep growing and keep building this. And then when I see you next time in lesson 3, we're going to talk about a key exercise and a key concept called the multiple perspective advantage, which is amazing in helping you as you start going into this process of diagramming trees, which is part of the neurocycle process.
All right, sweet. So cool deal there. Basically, I hope everybody kind of sees that. There was a prior episode where we did through that first lesson of the neuroplasticity. I think, the idea of, giving you that visual perception of the, thoughts being like a tree and really bringing that out to the scientific level of going out the proteins, really helps to create a better relationship even with the concept of a thought and the fact that it can change over time, and give you some perhaps even more empowerment to be able to see that there in our enlightenment hour. I hope that is worth everybody's time there. Next thing I want to share with you guys today at noon, we launched the Full Spectrum Live 3rd episode of our Full Spectrum podcast. This is our Herbal Wellness Corner, brought to you by High Horse Cannabis Company. And as the director of training over at High Horse Cannabis Company, guys, I have launched this weekly podcast with Bennett Castro, and it's very exciting. I'll show you guys a little sneak peek here. 2023, we're back at it. Joaquin and Bennett, we're excited to be out here today. Got a whole new round of Croptober coming up. We are now in it, guys, and we're excited with the farms that we have coming on board. Have been our partner farms. Again, today we're going over our East of West farms discount out of Hobbs, New Mexico. $100 ounces rolling out. Some primo guys. We're going to start with them, and then we're going to jump into our match.
Right.
Exactly.
And for the bud tenders,
resources there also Dope Mom Southwest.
Yes.
Want to make sure everybody gets connected to that. They've got different communities there.
Yeah, they do a lot of events, and they're ones that are big on advocacy too. So if you have any questions on, your state regulations near you, if you're in Texas or New Mexico, they are really big on advocacy and things like that. So maybe shoot them a message on Instagram, and they could probably help you out with some further information. It is pretty easy to look up yourself, but sometimes a lot of those big words can be confusing. So we can, you can reach out to those people that are part of your community, and they're part of the cannabis community. So, definitely reach out and build a Canna Mom community if you definitely are a Canna Mom.
Yes.
It's hard out here.
And that's exactly kind of where I wanted to segue, because I was fortunate enough to get an interview with the founder and leader of the Canna Mom show. She's out of Rhode Island or New York or one of those places. Forgive me for not remembering, but either way, she's a lawyer. She now, is Canna Mom. She's kind of in that same space of understanding how much advocacy still needs to be, empowering of women still needs to be out there. And I thought this, granted, we talked for an hour, but there's some munch bits here of her, journey of how cannabis healed her and how it's healed other women in many different various ways that are very insightful, very worth connecting with, and very worth considering how that may apply to you in your lives here. And I really do encourage, women to look at what it's done for themselves and to be able to talk about that, because you already know, physiologically women are better at talking about things than men. right? And that's why like groups like Dope Mom Southwest are so strong. They've got special, different, tailored Facebook messages to specific support groups for moms in there, and there's very intricate network of support there, and that's awesome. I love it, and I really do think that access should be even that much more available to those who might be on the fence, questioning, so on and so forth. We'll let Joyce kind of talk about this. Maybe it'll spur some.
Literally yell across my office.
Thinking
I'm stopping at the liquor store before daycare, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's fine." But if I had dared to smoke a joint to relax me before I went to pick up my kids, I would have literally arrested myself. I would have used that kind of knowledge against somebody in a divorce, specifically for custody. So I did consume it, but I really believed all these things that I had been told because I never questioned it. I mean, that's the truth of it. I just never questioned it.
She was talking about there that
interesting. So
she could go
that moment for you.
Use wine,
did it
and nobody
happen?
would judge her. So that's your little sneak peek and preview there. It gets juicy. It's fun. It's a good conversation there, especially we got into cannabis and pregnancy, cannabis and women. I've talked about it on this podcast, but again, it's more even better to focus on that on a cannabis-specific podcast, on a cannabis-specific platform. So again, that's why we are definitely pumping up that Full Spectrum Live. Link to it up on that QR code, top left corner of the screen. Otherwise, find us the Full Spectrum Podcast, brought to you by High Horse Cannabis Company on YouTube. Thank you, guys. And moving on to our community spotlight, want to share a fundraiser out for something that had come around here. Let me pull this up. Got a fundraiser here celebrating the life of baby Gia. Very sad to lose a young one so early. Parents should never have to leave this world before their kids. And the full stories here. Everything about Gia was perfect, from her head full of hair to her tiny little nose and her little toes. Gia's arrival made Robert and Madison's life complete. Constantly doted over, showered with love. And everybody, you could definitely read this and be very, heartfelt as well. So completely understand. Hopefully she does have the ability to go off out of this world in peace and in the right way. And we do wish that. All right, guys. Last portion of the evening here. Men's Health Minute, talking about getting into shape, getting back into shape specifically, because, a lot of people will go over the fence, me included, right? But how do you get back on the other side of the fence? Got a study here from Harvard, or got a, content here from Harvard that I want to share with you guys. Excuse me, not study. Yes, this guy. Me and him both got those crazy eyes, right? I'm just kidding. Check this out.
I've always been an on-again, off-again exerciser, except now I'm in my mid-40s. Any problem with attempting another comeback?
First off, don't try to pick up where you left off. One thing that stops any exercise program dead in its tracks is pain, especially the kind that shows up within the first couple of days after you've overexercised for the first time. You know what I'm talking about. You can't take your shirt off or walk up the stairs without wincing. We call it delayed onset muscle soreness, and it's usually the result of muscle damage. You're more prone to it because your muscles have weakened with age due to lack of consistent exercise. Rest and non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen or aspirin can help, but prevention is really the best cure. For instance, if your exercise program includes running, start out walking and slowly work your way up to your first run. Or start with 15 sit-ups and gradually work your way up to 100. Now, I know that a lot of people who haven't exercised in a while also wonder if starting again will give them a heart attack. The truth is that while it's always a good idea to get a physical before you begin, the absolute risk of sudden death during an episode of exercise is minuscule. Only 1 out of every 1.5 million exercise sessions. So I hope you start and stay with it this time. Regular exercise has known to enhance your health. From Harvard, I wish you good health.
Anyways, guys, this is an article from Harvard 09. As you can tell, it's a little bit more of an old school video, but I do like exactly what he's talking about because, guys, as you do want to get back into shape, it's easy to feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger because you're all pumped up off of, watching videos and stuff and feeling, like a high school letterman again. But again, guys, that's our big warning in our Men's Health Minute. Absolutely go for it. Get back in shape, but, realize that your body probably isn't what it used to be. Don't get yourself hurt and then not be able to work out again. That does nobody no good. So that's the end of our stream today, guys. Hope everybody has a fantastic